It's time for Come and Talk It with your host, Michael Cargill, brought to you by Texas Law Shield. Over the last decade, Michael has championed and supported the rights of law-abiding Texans to own and use firearms. He is the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, a veteran of the United States Army, and has achieved national exposure in such prestigious media outlets such as Forbes Magazine, Fox Business News, CNN Money, AOL, BBC World News, Huffington Post, and the New York Times. Cargill vigorously defends lawful gun ownership in this country without regard to party politics. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
Good afternoon, Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world. Let's praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. Today, we have in studio Robert Morrow, the Travis County Republican chair-elect. And on the phone, we have Cody Wilson, founder of Defense Distributed. We are going to discuss and break down how did the University of Texas at Austin Police Department, UTPD, mind you, police officer, shoot himself in the leg. Also, dear Austin, the liberal mecca of Texas, where where the liberal leaders are supposed to protect the poor, the elderly, and so-called minority. In Atlanta, Georgia, a naked, unarmed veteran was shot and killed by police. The officer has been charged with murder by the district attorney. Meanwhile, in Austin, Texas, the DA's office is so drunk they couldn't prosecute their ass in order to find toilet paper. Also, Austin ran Uber and Lyft out of town and leaving 10,000 citizens out of work. Now, the black market takes over, called Arcade City. Yeah, they are the Craigslist of the TNCs. Let me tell you, so anyone, now just go online. That's what they're forced our citizens to do. Our citizens are trying to make ends meet, so they're forced to just do whatever they can to make ends meet, and anyone's trying to get rides so they don't get a DWI. Yes, that means Austinites are now taking rides with random drivers they contact online. No background check, no insurance, no enforcement, no driver's license, no registration, no inspection, no nada. Now, this is what happens when government get involved and fix what is not broken. It creates a black market lawless system. Austin City Council passed a resolution directing the city manager to identify revenue neutral. That's right. I said revenue neutral city resources to help grow the transportation network companies that stuck around after Prop 1 failed. In layman's terms, existing resources and monies that are not already dedicated to any particular use could become available to ride-sharing companies that chose to stick around when Lyft and Uber left. Now, the discussion turned quickly to the very reason Uber and Lyft no longer exist in Austin: fingerprinting background checks for drivers. Now, Councilwoman Troxclair, who was a vocal Prop 1 and ride-sharing supporter, brought forth an amendment to ensure that no money goes to companies that are not complying with the fingerprinting ordinance. This makes sense. Companies that do not work within the law do not get taxpayer dollars. One problem: the penalties for not complying with fingerprinting background checks do not exist yet. Now, Mayor Adler shut down this amendment by ruling it not germane. While some agreed, many city council members found it strange that the city did not want to talk about the regulations already on the books. As one council member pointed out, Austin asked Lyft and Uber to submit to rules that were not well defined, and now there are smaller companies that are not complying with those rules that will now be eligible for tax dollars. This money would have been available for Lyft and Uber if they had stuck around. Now, if you ask me, the city got it ass backwards, again, as it normally does regarding transportation. Now, there is a big deal made about this Prop 1, and to be fair, Lyft and Uber weren't exactly playing nice. And now, there is no true enforcement thereof. We have rules that may or may not make ride-sharing safer imposed on companies that definitely reduce the amount of drunk driving in Austin. Now, this was a big, messy experience, one that indicates to me that the leadership in Austin does not have coherent, organized plan for the city's long-term growth. Now, that's not good for anyone. Let me bring into the conversation Robert Morrow, the Travis County Republican chair-elect. Robert, welcome to Come and Talk It, sir.
Hey, it's an honor to be here, Michael.
So tell me, what do you think about all this Uber and Lyft jazz?
Well, I think that Uber and Lyft and the Prop 1 supporters ran the most incompetent political campaign that I've ever seen in Travis County, and I've been here for 20, 25 years now. They threw a ton of money at it. They had the wrong messaging. You couldn't read their yard signs. They didn't do grassroots outreach. They ended up looking like bullies trying to buy an election. They basically disgraced themselves. They have a good product and a good service that they have to sell, but they didn't talk about that. They didn't talk about the cavi monopoly. That never came up in their messaging, okay? They never talked about the onerous burden of ridiculous fingerprint requirements. That never came up in their messaging. So they deserve to lose the election because they ran an incredibly incompetent one. I'm sorry they did, because I know Uber drivers who lost a job. I know people who personally depend on Uber to go everywhere, who don't have a car, who now have to put a message in a bottle, throw it in the ocean, and then hope a cabbie picks them up. So it's a sad situation.
Well, let me go to Cody Wilson. Cody, welcome to Come and Talk, sir, the founder of Defense Distributed.
Hey, Mike. Thanks.
All right. So, Cody, you tell me, what is your take on this Uber and Lyft debacle?
I agree with Mr. Morrow in a way. The Uber and Lyft weren't willing to really roll up their sleeves and call a spade. And I'd attribute it to this weird millennial, lack of confidence in really engaging in political rhetoric. They just thought they could emphasize the positive and just throw a bunch of mailers out there and really let the city council dominate the rhetorical side of things. And this is what happens. The city council won on what should have been a really easy contest. There are 2.5 million Uber rides in Austin and over 10,000 drivers. They could have easily won if they had a modicum of organization.
All right, well, let me bring Glen Mays into the conversation. Glen, welcome to Come and Talk. Glen's here in studio, so Glen's also a driver, and also an aspiring actor, trying to make ends meet for his family. So, Glen, what are they supposed to do?
Well, right now we have to just find any medium that's going to work. I mean, this is easily $400 to $600. It could have been in anyone's pocket. This is definitely taking a hit for us, my family, and a lot of other people out there, and also the disabled community who now no longer have rides to get where they need to go. The huge issue with, I want to bring up FAIR, which is the city's approved group. They have no idea of how to keep privacy done. Like, everybody's phone numbers is being released. With Uber and Lyft, they would hide that, go like a third party, but with this situation, it is just, I think it's just as crazy or as unsafe, if you will, if you're going to use that, unsafe, as throwing yourself out there to the wolves. Literally, like, you can go to the Facebook page and there's no accountability. I kind of like it. The community's coming together, but the safety aspect of what the city is talking about, that's one thing that's, you totally screwed the pooch on that one. Yeah,
and that page is actually growing. What is it? What is it called?
It's Arcade City, Austin Arcade City requested ride.
So I'm telling you, if you're out there, you're looking for a ride, you're trying to get home, you're out, you're drinking, you need a ride, you don't want to get a DWI, go to Arcade City on Facebook and get yourself a ride. Don't let these knuckleheads push you into getting a DWI. So, let me go back to Robert. So, Robert, what about, I never heard of all this TNC. This is a Texas term, TNCs. This is something they came up with in Texas. So, Get Me, which is another company. This is a Texas company. What's your take on Get Me? Because what they want to do is they're saying, they first started out by saying, hey, meet us at the gas station, over in Del Valle across the street from the airport, and also bring your banking information with you. So they don't even have an office. They didn't have one last I checked, have an office in the city. So they're not paying any type of taxes or anything like that. Now the city's trying to throw money to them, taxpayer money, and they're not putting anything back in the system. So what's your take on Get Me?
Well, my take on transportation in general is that the government should not be regulating it. They shouldn't be regulating cab companies. You shouldn't have to get a medallion. They shouldn't have to have a license to do that. They shouldn't be regulating Uber and Lyft in the slightest, and they shouldn't be regulating Get Me, and they shouldn't be giving tax dollars to ride-sharing companies. See, Prop 1 got voted down by a bunch of commies / socialists / liberals who simply want to have the government to regulate. They don't care what it is, what field you're in, what business you're in. They want the government in there regulating it, running it. Okay, I'm completely opposed to that. So you asked me about Get Me. I don't know much about them, For me, it's perfectly okay if folks want to set up a Facebook page and buy and sell ride sharing on that. But, we already had Uber and Lyft, and they got kicked out of town because the fingerprinting costs are too high. So I don't have an opinion on Get Me. I just have an opinion on government, and that means less government.
And we really don't need the fingerprints in the first place. Your cab companies are not getting fingerprints done. Your bus drivers are not getting fingerprints done. Your truck drivers are not getting their fingerprints done for the background check. To get hired for a particular company.
Well, Michael, here in Austin 10 years ago, we had a cabbie who had been fingerprinted who killed his customer on Barton Springs. Shows you how incompetent Prop 1 was. They didn't bring up the murdering cabbie that we had here in Austin, Texas. Yes, he was fingerprinted, okay? But he killed his customer 10 years ago because they were talking back to him. I guess that's what you do if you're a cabbie. If you got a customer that talks back to you, you pull your gun out and blow him away. Happened here in Austin, Texas.
Right here in Austin.
He was fingerprinted.
All right, Cody, what you got?
Mike, to Morrow's point just there, I mean, Uber and Lyft could have capitalized if they're willing to play a little bit stronger ball. They could have capitalized on the amount of taxi drivers in Austin that tried to become Uber and Lyft drivers in the 2 years that Uber was here. I think a full quarter to almost a third of those taxi drivers, accredited taxi drivers in the city, could not pass Uber's background requirements, the stringent requirements they already had. Some of these drivers having sexual assault convictions and other types of violent felonies attached to their criminal histories. So a lot of the rhetoric associated with this change was that not only was fingerprinting, which became the dominant word, duplicative, like Uber was already doing that and already had security settings, but the city council got away with murder because, of course, the ordinance they passed wasn't about just fingerprinting, full stop. It was 12 pages of taxes and regulations meant to change the business model of these very large companies operating in Austin. And that's what's so funny about Get Me. Get Me on their Facebook page after the election, or after Prop 1 failed, said, well, look, we're not really going to make it a priority to clean up the mess and to fill the space that Uber and Lyft have left. We've got our own ideas about how to grow our company. They don't just do pure ride sharing. They're not just a pure TNC. So the egg is on the city's face because the whole assumption of their proposition was that they could capture this very large business that was in Austin, lasso it, and turn it into an extension of their transportation policy. Get Me is nothing close to the network that Uber and Lyft represented. And it's laughable that now we need to subsidize their business for a few years just so they can get even close to being large enough to satisfy some of the city's ridiculous requirements. It's a comedy.
Today, we're chatting with Robert Morrow and Cody Wilson. We're trying to figure out how did the University of Texas at Austin Police Department, a UTPD police officer, shoot himself. Also, Austin ran Uber and Lyft out of town and leaving 10,000 citizens out of work. Now the black market takes over, called Arcade City. Now they are the Craigslist of TNCs. Can we please have some KY jelly or gun oil first, because this hurts? No money to build roads, but plenty to help overpriced TNCs. What about taking that extra money and letting the citizens ride on Capital Metro bus for free, or returning that money back to the citizens that we're talking, you're being raped by property taxes here. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Jack Jones here, and I get my gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
That's right. We're talking with Robert Morrow. We're talking with Cody Wilson. We're trying to get down to the dirty and find out what's going on in Austin with this Uber and Lyft business. So let me go to Glen Mays. Glen, tell me, what exactly is Arcade City?
So Arcade City, these guys have come in and they're actually all over the country. I even saw a couple of pages for people internationally trying to just decentralize the transportation industry. I really love the way the community's coming together. You should have seen in the first couple of hours, first couple of days, the way Austin came together. It was like people that were needing rides and from their own community reached out to each other. It was beautiful, and I was thinking, man, if we could do this on every level of our lives, we don't need the government for dang near anything. Private peer-to-peer interaction functions, private industry, the way we exchange money between services, that should be between the individuals. And to see that go on in the first couple of days has been amazing. I also want to throw out there, Mike, like if they're worried about safety, I want to know how many people actually have a license to carry. And almost, I mean, should we create our own little arcade, you know what I mean? Yeah. Anarchist little, you know.
So in other words, you know, get a group of people together who actually have a license to carry a handgun and have them.
We're approved by the state, and we have to follow.
Because the background check's already been done.
Background and fingerprinting. And with that, I mean, we have to abide by a certain level of rules that are above and beyond, I guess, the normal civilian, if you will.
Okay.
So that's my idea.
All right, so let me go back to Robert. What's your thoughts on that, Robert?
It's beautiful that the community is getting together on transportation needs in the demise of Lyft and Uber. I support that 100%, but it was so much more effective to have two very large corporations facilitating it in a very efficient manner. That many of my friends were Uber drivers. Many of my friends used Uber all the time. So we just have to regroup. You know, this issue is not going to go away. Ride sharing is going to be here in America for a very long time. And hopefully they can pass something at the legislature. But that's not looking good because we have Speaker Strauss, who's been silent on this issue. That's a very bad sign. And
do you think this is something that we're going to be able to bring up in the Texas legislature?
I think you're going to have Speaker Strauss block it in the House. And I think you're going to have a Democrat named, I think his name is Joe Pickett, the head of the Transportation Committee, who is against this. So the very fact that those two people who...
Now, why do you think Joe Pickett is against it?
He's spoken up.
Oh, he has already said
He's spoken up. Strauss is silent, and I take that as opposition, but Pickett has spoken up, and Pickett is a lieutenant of Strauss. He's a Democrat who's the chair of the Transportation Committee, and in years past he's been a big toll road fan. Maybe not so much recently, but in years past he was. So, folks, you just got to put pressure on your state legislature, and Uber and Lyft, you better open up your wallet and go buy yourself some lobbyists.
And see, this is disheartening because, you know, this is a service that your common person can use. You know, something very easy to use. I mean, my goodness, I was sitting somewhere and someone was telling me how, you know, they can have their little side piece picked up and brought to a certain location, you know, and, you know, there's a lot going on there. You know what I mean? And Robert, you can relate to that, you know, having your girlfriend or whatever picked up, you know, and brought to you and, you know, all that, you know what I'm saying?
Is that what a side piece is?
That's a side piece.
I thought it was a gun.
Yeah. Cody, I'm coming to you next, so don't laugh too hard. So Cody, what's your take on that?
Well, yeah, I don't want to just be low. I think Mr. Morrow's point again is well taken, but I think the young people should not be just lulled into, you know, helping Uber get lobbyists and helping us pressure the legislature. Again, it should be done. There's a big opportunity to support people here, of course, but I would add that we can't let Austin get away with its smug response to the fallout here. Like it wasn't its fault that these two companies were forced out. You know, it's this. It's the way the New York Times is portraying the situation in Venezuela right now, right? It isn't socialism that killed Venezuela, right? It's falling oil prices. Same thing, right? Don't blame the bad transportation on Austin City Council. Uber and Lyft decided to take their ball and go home. Well, we can't lose that argument. We have to educate people about, you know, the creeping socialism of city planners, of state legislatures, of state Democrats. And then we have to steel ourselves against that ideologically. So, yeah, support anything and everything, but also use this as a messaging opportunity. Don't just let them win. Uber and Lyft left. Oh, how sad. No, let's talk about why they left and make sure as many people as possible know.
Well, this is Robert Morrow here. I would say as the chairman-elect of the Travis County Republican Party that the Travis County Democratic Party and all of its little clubs and organizations played a huge role in the destruction of Uber and Lyft in Austin, Texas. And they should be held responsible. And you mentioned creeping socialism. I can tell you're a young man, Cody. But here in Austin, Texas, it's been full-on, full-bore socialism for as long as I can remember from the political elite. There's nothing creeping about it. But go ahead.
So you digress.
Well put. Hey, well put. And, you know, I'm a newcomer to Austin. I've only been here 4 or 5 years. Obviously, it's been a city of burnouts and slackers for a long time. And perhaps it's not surprising, you know, when I saw the day after Prop 1, right, the Chronicle had no less than 5 articles denouncing it in the strongest terms. We know who holds sway in this town, no doubt. no doubt. But the hipsters out here in Austin, right? When you go, hey, man, should Uber be safe? They go, yeah, sure, Uber should be safe. And that's why Prop 1 lost. But do they love Uber? Yeah, they love it. Do they love Lyft? Yeah, they do. So there's this critical disconnect where if we just allow it to be a messaging game between the labor groups and the city of Austin and the police unions and stuff, we're always going to let them control the narrative, you know? And there's got to be some way of disconnecting rhetorically and getting people to understand this is a beautiful thing. But you know, I don't know how we win that fight.
All right, now I'm looking online on the Arcade Facebook page, and John Bush has started a conversation where they're he's bringing up the fact that with Arcade City, you know, you can't have any new drivers because right now they're only accepting Uber and Lyft drivers until they get this app. Now, Glenn, do you know anything about this new app that Arcade City is trying to put together?
Yes, they just got a grant out of Germany for a little blockchain type of situation. And so what they're trying to do is roll out an app that's going to, I guess, be a lot like Lyft and Uber. Right now, there are so many factors that are GPS, locating devices. How are you going to pick the closest driver to you? Who's the safest person? Are those Lyft and Uber profiles even secure because they're Photoshop these days? So they're out there and they're asking for your Lyft and Uber profile. That's the safest way they can go about this. It's still a free for all. You can anybody can respond to any of those drivers. Actually, you need to make sure you pay attention that it's Arcade City and not a little knockoff of Arcade City. There's another one, Arcade City, Uber, Lyft. I was a part of them for a little while, but I didn't realize it was a lady up in Georgetown that just moved here from California, and her family was running the operation. I didn't realize it. I thought it was for everyone, but that was cool. But at the same time, it's like, let's be transparent if we're going to do like a guerrilla operation, you know.
Yeah, and I've been getting calls, I'm telling you, from a lot of different people, and I'm actually pretty shocked. Housewives, you know, people that are home during the day, they drop the kids off and they spend that free time to go drive for Uber and Lyft. And that supplements, you know, their income, you know. So a lot of people are being affected by this, you know, and I'm going back to this is for the common person, you know, that person that needs to ride, that person who goes out and drinks and don't want to get a DWI. This is for that person, you know, those people that are trying to make ends meet, their way of living here. So a lot of people are affected by this, and this is really bothersome.
And even just paying for parking, Mike. I mean, these days, I mean, I'd rather pay Lyft, go down there and not have to pay for parking downtown. I've done so many rides where I have people in my community go down to whatever's happening downtown, and now with the pay meters, you can't get in the side of the 3 mile radius without having to pay a good amount of money. You better hope it's within 3 hours of your show.
And a lot of them don't give change. I've made the mistake before. You know, you go park somewhere for $5, you throw a 20 in, and it keeps your cash.
Well, I just want to chime in again and say is another example of the Democratic Party taking a 45 and pointing at the temple of individual freedom and free market capitalism and blowing it away. That's what happened here in Austin, Texas. Thank you, Democratic Party.
Yeah, and making it difficult. I mean, Capital Metro, someone just sent me a message saying Capital Metro used to cost half as much as it costs now. You know, so they've doubled their prices, and they've doubled the prices of Capital Metro. You've taken away the common person's ride. I mean, what next? My goodness. Cody, what are we to do?
Man, look, you've got to support alternatives, no question. But surely this kind of anger, this fallout, the 10,000 people out of work, surely these people can be harnessed by an actual in-person, right, apparatus. Maybe that's connected to the Republican Party of Austin or Travis County. You know, maybe it's connected to, you know, some of the fallout groups from ride sharing for whatever, responsibility. I forget Uber's group. But that group of people has to come together, band a significant amount of people together, and really begin to win a messaging argument. Or perhaps, especially around events like with South by Southwest. Hopefully Uber and Lyft will stay gone long enough that major events, certainly Austin city limits, but South by Southwest, these events will become so poorly received by out-of-towners, San Francisco types, California types, that we can really tar and feather at least the city council with the fallout from this.
Well, that's all it would take, and I would think that just with their app alone, that come election time, if they would just start sending messages to the apps alone, they can mobilize enough people to take care of this issue.
Agreed. Yeah, the message on Uber when you open the Uber app right now, all you really we should ask
just
Uber.
Put the names of the people that are behind these regulations.
Yeah, but I don't know that they're willing to play hard hard ball like that? I don't know. Let's find out.
Well, maybe they should wait until the legislators go into session here in Texas and just really hit them hard and sponsor a bill. Put some money in their pockets and let's get a bill passed.
Michael, again, the problem is Speaker Strauss in the House, and the problem is Joe Pickett, the head of the Transportation Committee, who's spoken out against this. You're going to have problems with those two spots right there, I'm telling you right now. So it's not going to be that easy to pass something through the legislature next year.
I think getting 6 votes in the city of Austin is going to be easier than getting 76 votes in the House of Texas.
Let me go to line 1, John Bush. What you got for us, John? What do we do? You got Arcade City now. So we've created a black market. The government's gotten involved and destroyed something wonderful, and now it's black market free for all. So what do we do, John?
Well, I always appreciate the peer-to-peer technology that is organized in a decentralized fashion. And, of course, Bitcoin comes to mind as a perfect example. Along with Arcade City, or at least the peer-to-peer version of Arcade City, there's no corporation, there's no business, there's no CEO, there's no board of directors that governments, local, state, or federal, can put pressure on. And when governments don't have a human being to coerce and individual actors can choose whether or not they want to obey the law or not, it creates an environment where we can experience what a true free market is all about. That means lower prices, often higher quality service, and it means more freedom overall.
And see, I don't like Get Me, so I'm not even mentioning them so at all. So, I mean, but what's your take on Get Me? Because they're needing to be bailed out, John. The city is saying, hey, we're going to throw some money their direction to help them get started a little bit.
Yeah, I think the city's in hot water, and they're trying to save face, unfortunately. Get Me is going to be just the same. Then you have problems that the company brings, the CEOs bring. But when it's done in a decentralized fashion, it makes it a lot greater of an experience, and there's a greater connection between the consumer and the person offering the service. Now, however, unfortunately, something that's taking place with this Arcade City Facebook page, where people are organizing as like 23,000 people, they recently instituted a policy which seems to be inconsistent with the original mission of Arcade City, which was to allow peer-to-peer and decentralization to flourish. They're only allowing former Uber and Lyft drivers to offer rides on that page.
And you're saying that's not fair?
I'm saying that's not fair. It's protectionism. It's the same reason why Arcade City exists, in order to fulfill a market niche. And I tried to bring that up whenever they posted a comment. They had a post that had the new policy saying only people with Uber and Lyft profiles can offer rides on this page. And my post got deleted.
Oh, wow.
There's censorship going on. They're not even allowing for rational discourse. And unfortunately, when people have power, whether it's in government or the admin on a Facebook page, they often don't like dissent to come about. But in my opinion, some healthy discourse makes everything better for everyone.
Okay. I'm actually been talks with one of those admins on the page, and yeah, they are switching to a different system because of the app, and it's going to no longer be more of a decentralized situation because of the app. They're only going to have a certain amount of drivers, and then it's going to be almost the same type of situation. I am definitely about the peer-to-peer situation. I also want to for us to move into thinking about how can we approve people? How can we make the situation better to feel safe? State-identified people who have a license to carry, you're already fingerprinted, you're already background. We should make that happen.
Yeah, that's a great idea for sure. People have a previous check, but I mean, there's some people out there that don't want to get a license to carry a firearm, people that can't afford it. I think one great system is just having people vouch for you, having a reputation system. This works really well for eBay. It works really well for lots of different market-based services. And once you can get in the market and start offering rides to your friends and family, then they can vouch for you. It can extend beyond that. It could be a system of stars or whatever. But what this Arcade City Facebook page is doing seems to me to be protectionism, to protect those that have Uber and Lyft profiles, people that are out of a job. But it prevents me from even entering the market, at least the market on this 23,000 Facebook page. But as I understand, there's other alternatives already out there, which is a beautiful thing.
Hey, John, Robert Morrow here. You can start up another Facebook page. You see what I mean? You don't have to use Arcade. You don't have to use Uber. You don't have to use Lyft. You don't have to use your cabbie. you can start another Facebook page. And yes, it seems to me that they are controlled by the Uber Lyft community, and they're going to be a little bit tyrannical over there.
And you know what? Hold on, John, because I think that whole posting just got deleted. I can't find it anymore. I was trying to do a comment on it, and I think it's all gone. Hold on. All right, so we're chatting with Robert Morrow. We're talking with Cody Wilson. We're talking with John Bush. We're talking with Glen Mays, and we're discussing this Uber and Lyft debacle. Austin ran Uber and Lyft out of town, leaving 10,000 citizens out of work. Now the black market takes over. It's called Arcade City. They are the Craigslist of the TNCs. Can we please have some KY jelly or gun oil first, because this hurts? No money to build roads, but plenty to help overpriced TNCs. What about taking that extra money and letting the citizens ride on Capital Metro bus for free, or returning that money back to the citizens that are being raped by property taxes? This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Brittany Glaze, and I get my global gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
That's right. We get knocked down, but we get back up again. It doesn't matter what the city of Austin does. Doesn't matter what that mayor does. Doesn't matter what Ann Kitchen does. Just keep pushing, Austin. Keep pushing. All right, so let me go back to John Bush. So, John, this Ian Smith, are you having a conversation with this Ian Smith in reference to this censorship on their page?
Yeah, I started a conversation, and I shared with him some of my concerns, but he hasn't replied to me. And they did take down the post that listed the policy restricting people that aren't Uber and Lyft drivers, but they have it there on the sidebar on the About page. It says only Uber and Lyft people can offer rides, and it says people that are unofficial drivers who don't have an Uber and Lyft profile should be avoided. So they're basically creating a little protection racket, which is kind of depressing, because I thought that this action was supposed to be the opposite of that. I would imagine Christopher David, who started Arcade City, it isn't in line. And in fact, I tagged him in that post before it got deleted. And I said, Christopher David, is this what you intend for this? Because obviously they're using the Arcade City name. And he said, no, if you can put your name up and have multiple people vouch for you, it seems like we should let the market decide, which was my original inclination. But again, I think that, as you said, it's people that are involved with Uber and Lyft that are mainly on this page, and having just been shut down by the city, it's unfortunate that they're hypocritically doing the same thing to people that weren't originally with Uber and Lyft.
Okay, now what's your take on the Austin Underground Rides, Austin Underground Rideshare community? Are you part of that page?
I haven't gone to that page yet, but it sounds like it's a place that's a little bit more in line with my philosophy. There's this strategy for people that want to see a free society called agorism, and it's basically revolutionary market anarchism, and it encourages people to participate and to proliferate black and gray markets. Now, this type of activity is actually a gray market activity. Black market activities are those activities that are expressly prohibited by the government. Gray market activities are those activities that are prohibited unless you ask permission and obtain a permit or a license, for example.
Okay, now I got to be devil's advocate here, because some people are concerned with their personal safety. In North Austin, we're having issues with ladies being raped and assaulted. So, how do we, what do we do with those ladies who want that ride and want to make sure that these people are good, good citizens?
Well, that's the beauty of the market, competition, and choices. For people that may feel insecure taking a ride from someone that hasn't been vetted by a big company like Uber and Lyft, they can go to the Arcade City page. Unfortunately, I'd say they can go get a taxi ride, but the taxi drivers seem to be worse and more violent and more prone to bad behavior than Uber and Lyft drivers. And for those that are willing to take on the quote-unquote risk that may be associated with driving with someone who isn't vetted by Uber and Lyft, then they can try the underground thing. But at the end of the day, the most important thing people can do to prevent that type of thing from happening to them is to exercise self-responsibility, arm themselves, carry mace or a taser, go down to Central Texas Gun Works and get a license to carry permit. And at the end of the day, there's nothing that we can do, and there's no amount of assurance that will make someone 100% safe. So people need to learn to defend themselves and avoid that type of stuff altogether.
Man, that's why I love John Bush, the owner of Brave New Books. Let me tell you, John. I tell you. Let me go back to Cody. Cody, what's your take on it?
I think John's points are all fine, and they're great, philosophically beautiful. I think in the short term we have a much thornier problem, and so to fall on ourselves and complain about where new companies that enter this vacuum are going is to miss the thread in part, because of course this vacuum is going to tempt new entrants and small players like Get Me to go ahead and trend in the direction that the city council wants, to go ahead and become more like Uber than not like Uber, whereas they had a competitive advantage to diverge from Uber when Uber was present. We all know what the market incentives are right now. It's to whoever who can most quickly become like Uber and Lyft to become like that. So we shouldn't be surprised that whatever this iteration of Arcade City is will probably end up becoming more like an Uber, more like a regulated TNC. And we shouldn't forget that the Austin regulations are, no matter what, even if your Facebook page says underground, that the regulations say you must have a physical business presence, an office presence in Austin. You have to be able to receive service of process, and you have to conform to all these expectations that Austin has now of what a TNC is, how it defines it. And you have to play ball that way on pain of, fines and jail and death and all that other stuff. So the incentive structure is that we're going to keep getting these really terrible, really unworkable systems. And just to lament that the big corporations are gone and we have all this opportunity overlooks this problem that, look, Uber and Lyft had millions upon millions of dollars to do all this technical development that will take us to duplicate years. So in the interim, while we should support alternatives, we have got to find some way of capitalizing on the absence of Uber and Lyft and not let Austin just dominate the messaging.
Okay, and let me change gears for a second. So, Cody, tell me what's going on with your situation. We're going to totally change gears. What's going on with your situation there with your case and your company with Defense Distributed?
That's a hard left, man.
Yeah, that's a hard one there. I'm going to
look, I really wanted to be with you in studio today. I wanted to meet Mr. Morrow and shake his hand and everything. I think good things for Texas Republicans are happening. I think Trump is going to be a big deal. So I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but I'm in Washington, D.C. because the Cato Institute is hosting moot arguments from my legal team and my company in advance of our appearance at the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans in the first week of June. So we have to practice these arguments. It's a very formal thing at the Court of Appeals. So we have the Cato Institute Supreme Court panel, basically, where we imitate an appellate court hearing and we practice our arguments.
Okay. And Mr. Morrow, let me bring you back into the conversation. So Cody said, that he's all for, Trump. Should we rally around Donald Trump now and move forward with if you're voting Republican and, vote for Trump, stand by Trump?
Well, I beg to differ with that. You should rally around the concept of freedom. You should permanently disabuse yourself from the notion that a politician of any stripe is going to protect your freedom. And that includes Republican, Democrat, and I hate to say this, even libertarians in some cases. So having said that, Hillary Clinton murdered 76 people at Waco. That wasn't Janet Reno. And having said that, Bill Clinton's a serial rapist. His first rape was at Oxford, Eileen Wellstone. You can Google that or read it in my book, The Clintons War on Women. Hillary Clinton has been running terror campaigns on Bill's sex victims for 20 years, where they break into people's homes, where they deface the car, where they nail gun tires the car, where they kill Kathleen Willie's cat, where they beat up a guy named Gary Johnson, who was a lawyer for Larry Nichols. So the Clintons are thugs. So going back to Trump, he hadn't done that, okay? He's a crude guy. He is a pathological liar and a psychopath, the kind of guy you need to take up against the Clintons.
Now, Cody, have you had a chance to check out Robert's book there?
No, I haven't, but I imagine it repeats a number of things that Christopher Hitchens says in his famous essays. There are rapists in the White House. I mean, none of those.
It's a very good read.
We go far beyond Christopher Hitchens, who knew that Bill Clinton was a rapist. We go into Hillary Clinton's terror campaigns, which is critically important, where they deface people's cars, these women, where they break into their home, where they spy on them, where they threaten their kids, where they beat up the lawyer for one of them. That's how the Clintons roll. So as far as Trump going to save us all, no, but the Clintons need to be smacked around really hard this election cycle. And for folks who don't like Trump, vote Libertarian. Good God, there are other alternatives out there. And I'm really a small L Libertarian at heart. I'm going to run the Travis County Republican Party, but my liberty views are with the Libertarian Party. So do what you need to do.
Okay. All right. So what do you think about that, Cody? We go.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I grew up in Arkansas. I mean, the Clinton machine dominated, my entire early existence. I know all the stories, and they're all kind of like legend where I come from. The Clintons are arguably murderers of an important caliber.
Well, here's an important point. At Waco, the reason they attacked the Branch Davidians was because they were developing and altering guns. That was the original reason for the ATF to go in there. Then you had a siege for maybe a month and a half. I may be wrong on the timeline on that. And then you had a final assault on April 19th, 1993. And Hillary Clinton personally ordered the final assault on the Branch Davidians at Waco and murdered 76 people, and 55 of them were women and children, and 18 of them were children under the ages of 8 at Waco. So the blood of the Branch Davidians drips off the face and the head of Hillary Clinton.
I've got a question.
I don't argue. I do know, though, that some important Waco documents and other documents related to investigations connected to the Clintons were personally lost by Hillary Clinton. And she was never, she was never.
She told her boyfriend, Webb Hubbell, who, by the way, is the father of Chelsea Clinton. Okay? These are critically important things to know. So she tells her boyfriend, Webb Hubbell, who's working at Justice, supposedly under Janet Reno. He's not. He's telling her what to do. Hubbell goes over to the command center for the Waco operation and says the assault must begin now. It wasn't Bill Clinton ordering it. It wasn't Janet Reno who was saying, can we do something else? Janet Reno took responsibility for it in the aftermath. It was Hillary Clinton ordering the final tragic assault on Waco, sending the tanks, sending the CS gas, fires start, they get incinerated, a bunch of women and children are killed. That's Hillary Clinton. You can read in our book, The Clintons War on Women.
I got a question. When Bill was governor, he set up that institution that was for startup companies to where he was giving his friends. Is that still happening today?
Well, in Arkansas or in America?
In Arkansas. Because that's officially what started his campaign and where he got the funding to become president.
Well, actually, no. What that was called the Arkansas Development Finance Authority, which is governments all across the country do this. Rick Perry had one like that, okay, where he funds companies, where you give state money to your friends,
yes,
to your political contributors. It's the sickest, saddest thing you can imagine. And in Arkansas, they had that, but in Arkansas, there was a little twist to it. It was Justin, right? Mm-hmm. The little twist was that it was used to launder CIA drug money of the 1980s, and they had opened up bank accounts in the Cayman Islands. Why is the state of Arkansas opening up bank accounts in the Cayman Islands to launder drug money?
You're talking about MENA, right?
Yes, and so Bill Clinton was intimately involved in the drugs at MENA, as was the federal government, as was Oliver North. You may have heard of Oliver North. He is a Fox News contributor. Big-time drug dealer in the 1980s. In the cause of anti-communism, you understand. We're dealing drugs in the name of stopping the Sandinistas. But so Clinton was involved, North was involved, the Bush family was involved, Jeb Bush involved, Vice President George Herbert Walker Bush, CIA Director William Casey was involved before he died, and various other people that you see on TV to this day were involved in that.
All right, so Cody, before we let you go, because I know you got an appointment you have to go to, what's this tweet here? You only use guns for offensive purposes.
Oh, yeah, Michael, my ideology is simply an insurrectionist ideology where I believe that the people should have access to military-grade weapons principally for the purpose of overthrowing their government when it becomes tyrannical. Nothing, so tame as, well, I need it to defend my home. No, I need it to murder my government.
Okay, I'd like to chip in here and make a comment, okay?
Go for it.
Gun rights is about the rights of the individuals to defend themselves. And in America, oftentimes, and around the world, that'll mean defending yourself from the government in the case of full-bore tyranny. And don't kid yourselves that full-bore tyranny can't happen here in America. After all, Hillary Clinton murdered 76 people at Waco. After all, the Bushes in Oliver North murdered CIA drug smuggler Barry Seal in Baton Rouge in February 1986. After all, Richard Nixon was thinking about killing a journalist, okay? After all, Lyndon Johnson murdered John Kennedy, period, end of story. So don't pretend that tyranny cannot occur in America.
All right, so we're talking with Robert Morrow. We're talking with Cody Wilson. Hold on, Cody, because I got to get you to clarify that. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Hello, this is Gerald Daugherty, and I'm the Precinct 3 County Commissioner here in Travis County, and you're listening to Come and Talk It.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so what's the matter with you? Come on now, Cody. Are you should we... The purpose of having firearms is to protect ourselves from our government? Is that what you're saying?
I know, shocking. It's the product that is the Second Amendment. The reason the Second Amendment ended up in the Bill of Rights, and I should say the only other formal time the duty to defense or something like the Second Amendment showed up in a constitution was in Germany post-war. The only reasons these things showed up in the laws were because there were these neo-Republican conversations about how do we stop a government from becoming tyrannical and dominating us.
But we're not armed enough to be able to stop our government.
Oh no, certainly we're armed enough to for heavy resistance against our government right now. Everyone knows that, and that's why Hillary Clinton and the rest of the gun control liberals can't quite get so confident about full-on confiscation, right? I mean,
absolutely, we are, and that's why they're going after the ammunition, because they want to take the bullets out of the guns, because there are guns all over America, so they figure ammunition is a choke point.
Yeah, we're certainly very, very prepared right now, this generation and perhaps the next, for engaged, especially out in the West, for engaged resistance scenarios. And I don't doubt that the Oath Keepers and a number of people could create relevant and I think substantial divisions within the National Guard and the Army for support, and we could have protracted civil conflict leading to important secessionary movements, and it's all there, and so they don't come full bore after the guns right now. I think giving the people and making sure that people maintain access to specifically military grade weapons is the important ideological test to get kind of cowed into accepting a domestic narrative about the right to protect your home and the right to protect your spouse. It's important to do those things, but to let that be the terms of the debate is to allow them to win and to really suck out the essence of the historical and ideological fervor and purpose of the Second Amendment in the United States.
All right, so you're saying, hey, there shouldn't be a problem at all with me having a tank, any military-style weapon at all.
Oh, certainly. Now, you would be laughed out of any court in this country if you bring an action saying, "Hey, I should be able to carry around an RPG to Kmart." They'll just laugh you out. There's certain physical, judicial realities they're never going to give it to you. The bad faith is already so bad in the court systems against the Second Amendment. But certainly, the fight should be had to not give up an inch on magazines and semi-automatics and the AR-15.
Absolutely,
the AR-15.
Well, then I'm waiting on you, Cody, to give me that device so I can build that in my living room.
Mr. Cargill, you're in luck.
I need to build that in my living room so that way I don't want the government to know what I have.
Mr. Cargill, what if I told you that there was a product that you could bring to your home to peaceably and imperceptibly assemble an AR-15 in the comforts of your garage or living room?
I would say that is beautiful, and it should be on eBay and Amazon.com.
Well, I'll tell you, I just saw one on eBay the other day. It went for $2,200.
Are you serious?
We sell them for $1,500. A bargain, ladies and gentlemen, and they're not illegal. So,
hey, Cody, this is Robert Morrow, and I just want to chime in and support you ideologically on that. Really, gun rights are to protect you from the potentiality of a tyrannical government. It's not about hunting ducks. It's not about doing skeet shooting. It's not about just protecting your home or just protecting your body as you're walking to your car over a deserted parking lot. It's about scaring the living hell out of the government so they will never, ever go full-bore tyrannical on you as a certain amount of them would love to.
Well said. It's about maintaining at least the illusion of the consent of the governed, that this is a government authored by this people, for this people, that we are only governed and not ruled. But, anytime these liberals go, well, you should have the right to defend yourself, you just say, absolutely I should. And absolutely I should have the right to hunt. We all know that we have these things. The Second Amendment isn't about these things. And as quickly as you can, take the conversation away from that, because that's bad faith on their part. Obviously, anyone should be able to protect their house and home. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the Second Amendment, which is the duty and the right of the people to keep and bear arms for military purposes.
Hey, but Cody, you ought to give them a little dose of real history when you do that. You have to tell them that we have a whole line of U.S. presidents that are flat-out murderers, okay? That Hillary Clinton murdered 76 people at Waco, and she runs a secret terror police on Bill's sex victims. That George Herbert Walker Bush, as vice president, was running Iran-Contra, running drugs into America, murdering people. That he murdered Barry Seal in 1986, so he's a murderer.
Sure.
And that Jeb Bush is a murderer because he's involved in that, too. And that Lyndon Johnson put a cap in John Kennedy in Dallas in '63, and so the sitting, But once you did give them,
with you.
What? Yeah. Well, the point is that they can't seem to comprehend there might be big, bad, evil people in the American government. They all think it's about overseas. They think it's about Hitler over there, Stalin over there, Saddam Hussein over there, Castro in Cuba. And they can't get in their thick skulls that there are murderers in the U.S. presidency who you need to have protection from.
Well, I've had this conversation with people before, and the next place they go is, oh, right, well, you're gonna defend yourself against a tyrannical government that has F-16s and the grenade launchers. And
if you have 100,000 people who own AR-15s,
well, I've done the math. We outgun the government actually 75-1,
and that's the whole point. If you have guns, here's the answer to that is no. We're not talking about overthrowing the government. We're just talking about an insurance policy against a demented psychopathic freak who wants to control every aspect of your life and take away every part of your freedom, far beyond taking away your Uber and Lyft.
All right, go ahead. All right, go ahead, Cody.
I mean, a couple points. When they talk about jets and the Army, how technologically advanced they are, I mean, all you've got to do is point over to Afghanistan and say, look what these throwbacks.
Exactly. They're running around in sandals. They're not even wearing shoes. They're in tatters. They're beating our SEALs over there. They're taking a gun and blowing a helicopter out of the air of our finest soldiers we've ever created.
It's not a question of technical overcapacity or difference in technological ability. We all know that committed, engaged resistance is totally possible with the equipment we have right now, and we're far better equipped than many ragtag groups that have fought this government to a standstill. That's good to know in your heart.
It is.
But I think, Mr. Morrow, the reason I don't immediately take it, Hillary Clinton is, it creates an urgent partisan scenario that might automatically tell someone I'm going to turn this off. This is a partisan debate. So
no. I threw in Bush. I threw in LBJ. I'm telling you, there's a 50-year history of murderers sitting in the White House. I want to tell you something else. Richard Nixon's G. Gordon Liddy's very open about this. They were thinking about killing the journalist Jack Anderson. Google it. Google G. Gordon Liddy thinking about killing Jack Anderson.
I don't doubt you for a moment. And I think the public has, at least uniquely in the case of Hillary Clinton, had many decades to become familiar with this politician. And there's plenty of opportunity for people to know how corrupt she is. And many people probably do. It's a little bit more than a rumor about all the things that Bill and Hillary have done and the murder machine and everything. So when I give history the Second Amendment, I like it to be an actual kind of academic and early revolutionary neo-Republican history. There was this literal debate back with the urban radicals like Thomas Paine and these guys in England, I mean, even before them, with John Harrington and the rest of them, where they said, look, the problem with countries is that the sovereign relies on mercenaries and a standing army, and this so quickly diminishes our liberty that really the only way we can trust ourselves as a republic is if we hold the power with the military weapons, and that there is no standing army, and that there are no mercenaries, and that we limit ourselves to only the wars that we're willing personally to get involved in. This was a beautiful Republican ideal that carried sway in England and then into the conversation in America for almost 250, 300 years. And we find evidence of it in our Second Amendment. It's a beautiful thing, and I like to emphasize that history of it,
Well, you could also point out during World War II that the Japanese were never going to invade the west coast of America because they knew how armed the average person was. Far beyond the government, they knew the average person was armed to the hilt.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a very easy thing to look up. I hope that when I what my company does. We just spend a lot of time helping people get the information and technology to just equip themselves, because there's naturally still in America, with millions of people, this desire to have that, right? I don't have to convince somebody that Hillary Clinton's a murderer to convince them to give themselves an AR-15. They just want to do it, and they feel that it's a part of their, political sovereignty and their self-dignity. So I'll let you, Mr. Morrow, pick up the back end with the hard facts. I like giving people the technical capability and the legal cover to arm themselves to the teeth as quickly as they can.
Well, yeah, and then to point out that the reason you do that is an insurance policy against full-bore tyranny in America. That's the bottom line. That's why you should be able to own military-grade weapons. God bless you, Cody. God
well
bless
said.
you. This is Governor Bill Clinton right here. I just want to tell you something. That me and my wife have been following you and all your little gun making and everything, all that little plastic gun making in the house. We think it's wonderful. You know why? Because we got all these crazy people coming after me. They want to eat my fried peanut butter banana sandwich that I make up all the time, me and Shanika do. And we have to protect ourselves from these crazy Americans. And you, Cody Wilson, me and my wife, Hillary, want to come. I just want to open our heart up to you and thank you from the bottom of my heart, okay?
Wow.
All right.
Bill, a pleasure, man. And Mike, a pleasure as well. I have to get going, guys, but it was fun. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Cody. Appreciate it. All right, so how did a UTPD police officer shoot himself? Now, the University of Texas Police Department is being surprisingly tight-lipped about the cause of an unintentional shooting that sent one of its officers to the hospital Tuesday morning. Now, anyone with extensive firearms experience knows that the cause of an unintentional shooting, commonly referred to as an accidental or negligent discharge, mind you, is seldom a mystery. Now, the lack of information regarding this incident in which a UTPD officer was shot in the leg with his own gun is all the more surprising in that it was reportedly witnessed by two other officers. Now, according to the UT Police Department, the firearm involved is a Glock 22, a .40 caliber pistol. Now, Glock pistols are designed with 3 independent safety mechanisms to prevent accidental discharges. Now, the system design is a safe action by Glock. Now, it consists of an external integrated trigger and 2 automatic internal safeties, a firing pin safety and a drop safety. The external safety is a smaller inner lever contained in the trigger. Now, pressing the lever activates the trigger bar and sheet metal connector. The firing pin safety is a solid hardened steel pin that in the secure state blocks the firing pin channel, disabling the firing pin in its longitudinal axis. It is pushed upward to release the firing pin for firing only when the trigger is actuated, and the safety is pushed up through the backward movement of the trigger bar. The drop safety guides the trigger bar in a ramp that is released only when direct rearward pressure is applied to the trigger. The 3 safety mechanisms are automatically disengaged one after the other when the trigger is squeezed and are automatically reactivated when the trigger is released. Now, this passive safety system omits the manipulation of traditional on-off levers, hammers, or other external safeties as found in many other handgun designs. So, David, my co-host, David, tell me, how in the world does someone shoot themselves in the leg with a Glock 22?
It's quite easy and extremely simple. You pull the trigger.
He put his finger on the trigger.
Yeah, or like the other cop shot himself in the leg. He had a jacket on in 90-degree heat and decided to get his little, zipper tie thing stuck in it and pulled the trigger. The only way to fire a gun is to pull the trigger, period. I don't care if you drop it. I don't care if you kick it. I don't care if you pee on it. I don't care what you do to it. And I think Justin even brought it up during the break. During Mythbusters, they did one, and they dropped it in, 300-degree heat, boiling.
Yeah, I believe that the temperature of the gun had to get up to somewhere around 300 degrees before the bullet would actually, or before it would automatically go off.
Yeah, and I mean, come on now. And everybody knows if your house goes burning, you're good luck. Fire department will stay far, far away. If my house caught on fire, boy, they'd clear 5 miles.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about this. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is State Representative is Jonathan Stickland, and you are listening to Come and Talk It on Talk 1370.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill. We're talking all things firearms. Now, here's Michael Cargill.
Now it's time for GGN, Global Gun News. Global Gun News, sponsored by Central Texas Gunworks, the largest online gun store in Texas. In the news, we wanted to lead this week's news with a name you've probably never heard, Doug LaMalfa. Doug is a rare breed, a California Republican. He's a fairly staunch Republican as well. And in fact, there are issues about which I'm sure he and I do not agree. We're talking about Doug this week because he proposed a bill that would prevent micro-stamping firearms, which would be a failed safety measure.
Mr. Speaker, the only real impact of micro-stamping is to increase costs and make it more difficult for Americans to exercise their Second Amendment rights. Unfortunately, that is the true intent of these laws, not to increase safety, but simply to make it more difficult for law-abiding citizens to own firearms.
Now, Doug proposed the bill to prevent the government from wasting money and to protect Americans from bills that seek only to disarm the populace. Doug did so humbly and with excessive or inflammatory rhetoric, and that sort of statesmanship deserves recognition.
This week in LaPlace, Louisiana, a 5-year-old girl got her hands on her dad's firearm and accidentally shot herself. She died in the hospital, unfortunately. The father is an Iraq War veteran who had designated firearm area for when his kids had visited him. It is unclear how the child got a hold of the gun or if any charges will be filed. However, this story should remind us that the best way to protect us against these accidents is to educate kids. No age is too young to learn about gun safety and what not to do with a gun. What to do if you find a weapon, and to not touch a gun without proper training. I'm not saying 5-year-olds should be packing guns, but they should know as early as 5 the implications of guns and the dangers of them. Governor Terry McAuliffe of Virginia ordered last month to restore voting rights of 206,000 felons.
Second chances matter. These folks, George, understand they have served their time. They're done with probation or parole. They're back in society. They're living in our communities. They have jobs. They're paying taxes. Why don't we possibly want them to vote? Why are we putting walls up? So once you have paid your debt to society, and that debt was determined by a judge and a jury, once you have finished that, why should we have a lifetime ban?
This had the unintended consequence of making it easier for ex-offenders to regain their Second Amendment rights. Before the order, felons who legally wanted to possess firearms first had to go through a process of having their civil rights reinstated. That process, which involves submitting forms for review by the Secretary of the Commonwealth using the governor's authority, is no longer in place. Felons can now go straight to the court petition. Prosecutors review the petitions and can intervene if they believe a felon should continue to be barred.
Finally this week, a federal judge ruled Thursday that a key provision of Washington, D.C.'s concealed carry law was unconstitutional and ordered D.C. police to stop requiring residents to prove that they have a good reason to be issued a permit. Now, the plaintiff, Matthew Grace, is a district gun owner and a member of the Pink Pistols, a shooting group that honors diversity and is open to all shooters regardless of sexual orientation. This is a major victory for gun rights, and we'll take just a moment to point out that openly gay individuals that have successfully fought for 3 of the latest major gun rights victories in the nation's capital. Now, they have done so by pointing out that the anti-gunner laws disproportionately affects minority groups that are targets of the hate crimes, and by pointing out that everyone, especially the targets of hate crimes, has a right to protect themselves with a firearm. And that is your Global Gun News Report for this week of May 2016. Coverage. All right, so let me go back to Robert Morrow. Robert, so who should we vote for in this upcoming election? Because right now we're in a runoff election, and Election Day is on Tuesday for the runoff.
Well, on the Republican side of things, there's a limited ballot, either 3 or 4 people on the ballot. There's a critical judicial race for Criminal Court of Appeals, and we have a judge from Williamson County named Brent Webster. And my friend David Rogers says he's a constitutional conservative and a good guy. So Brent Webster, I think his opponent is Scott Walker. Everybody thought it was the guy from Wisconsin. He's not.
He's just using that name.
Like I use the name.
It's his name.
Like it's his name.
It's his
There's
name.
a lot of Scott Walkers, but don't vote for Scott Walker. He's not evil, but he's not a good. So Brent Webster's the one there. The other runoff race for the judge is Ray Wheeless, WHLESS, who's been endorsed by the Texas Homeschool Coalition. Always follow their recommendations. They're usually pretty good. So we got Brent Webster, Ray Wheeless, and then we have a state Senate race between Dawn Buckingham, who I've endorsed for the runoff, and this liberal rhino big government gal named Susan King. And a little bit of that should be in Travis County, I think. I'm not sure.
Speaking of Susan King, she failed the Return to Lone Star Gun Rights candidate survey as well. So she apparently doesn't want people to know what her position on gun rights is as well. So I would definitely say that she's not a good candidate.
Yeah, so she's Control Alt Delete Susan King. All right. And then the fourth one, the fourth race that is the Railroad Commission runoff race. Basically, the Texas Railroad Commission regulates oil and gas. Okay, you probably didn't know that. And there's a runoff race between Wayne Christian, who I voted for, and a guy named Gary Gates. And Gary Gates had a big problem with Child Protective Services, who I really don't like CPS, because for many reasons. He's basically a psycho disciplinarian with his kids. And I don't think a guy with that type of mentality should be in public office. I think he's well-intentioned. I do not think his kids should have been taken from him. But I think there's a psycho residing in the mind of Gary Gates. I do not support him. I don't care what his political viewpoints are, liberal, conservative, libertarian, whatever. So we got to go with the other guy, Wayne Christian. Gary Gates used to do stuff like his foster kid would pig out at night, like on cookies. Then he would take the empty bag and staple it to the kid's shirt and send him off to school so he could be humiliated by his friends. I would not take a child away because of that, but I would definitely hold it against Gary Gates for being a psycho. He also was accused of giving his kids stuff to make them throw up, like maybe they pigged out or something. Okay, so if that stuff is true, Gary Gates has problems in his head. And so I would vote for Wayne Christian for Railroad Commissioner, no matter what their political viewpoints are.
All right. And I want to thank Robert Morrow for coming on the show today, our Travis County Republican chair-elect. And also I want to thank Cody Wilson, the founder of Defense Distributed, for coming up, for calling into the show. And also Glen Mays for sitting in the studio as well, letting us, pick his brain about the ride share in Arcade City. And like Cody said, I'm going to take a play from his playbook. When they come for your guns, you give them your bullets first. As always, more guns equals less crime. Go out and buy yourself a gun. You've been listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.